This video is sponsored by Squarespace. Hi, I'm Konstantin Baum, Master of Wine, and today I'm going to taste one of the most unique wine styles in the world that is low in alcohol, absolutely delicious, usually fairly affordable and very age-worthy. It is unique as it basically only exists in one country in the world, in Germany, and some of you might have already guessed what I'm talking about, Riesling Kabinett. Leon selected some nice examples for me to taste blind, so 1, 2, let's get tasting. Oh no, 1, 2, not so dry. Riesling is the most important grape variety in terms of quantity as well as quality in Germany. One of the reasons why it's so difficult to understand is also its biggest advantage. It can produce many different styles, and one of them is Kabinett. Kabinett is a German term with many meanings. It can refer to a small room, a group of politicians, and also the lowest predicats level for wine in Germany. The fact that it's the lowest predicats level does not mean that Kabinett is of low quality. The German wine law is mainly based on the sugar content in the grape juice, not a reliable quality indicator at all. The grapes for Kabinett wine need to have at least 70 degrees Öxle, 17 degrees Brix, or roughly 160 grams per liter of sugar. But in many cases, those lower limits are exceeded by a lot. These grapes are usually harvested just a little bit later than for normal Qualitätswein or a little earlier than Spätlese grapes. You could ferment most Kabinetts to dryness, and those wines can be delicious too, but the real magic happens when you balance the fresh and racy Riesling acidity with some residual sugar to create a juicy wine that is low in alcohol and jam-packed with flavor. 7 to 9% of alcohol are not rare, but these wines are not heavy sweet wines. They really form a category of their own between dry and sweet. As they are so juicy, they can be paired with lots of different dishes, can be served as an aperitif, as a breakfast wine, and as a pick-me-up after a long tasting. And now I'm getting really thirsty. Fortunately, Leon selected some delicious Kabinett wines for me to taste blind. I don't know anything about those wines apart from that one of the wines is from J.J. Prum Winery. I was not supposed to know that, but I was copied into an email and therefore, well, just full disclosure. I know there's one J.J. Prum in there, but that's it. So let's start off with wine number 1, which is a Riesling Kabinett, and that's all I know. Many Riesling Kabinetts come from the Mosel or the Nahe. Some come from other regions as well. Right now, Riesling Kabinett has this kind of revival moment here in Germany, and more producers are producing this style again, which was kind of out of fashion for a while. Wine number 1 is absolutely delicious and reminds me straight away why I really like this style. It smells of ripe apple. It is very precise and very fresh. On the palate, it's super lively. The acidity level is pretty high. There's also quite a lot of residual sugar, but it doesn't feel sweet. It's juicy, it's lively, it's just beautiful. I don't think it's the deepest Kabinett I've tasted, so it is really just juicy and upfront. I think it's still very young and lively. But yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. I'm going to rate it 89 points. Sometimes people wonder in the comments why I'm very positive about a wine or very negative and then rate it, well, lower than they expected or higher than they would expect it. For me, really, enjoying a wine is different than rating its quality objectively on the 100-point scale. Sometimes I don't personally really enjoy a wine, but I think it is really, really well made. And then I have to rate it a little bit higher than what my enjoyment level is. It's more about conveying to you what I think this wine quality represents in a general context, rather than how much I enjoy drinking it right now. So let's move on to wine number 2, and it's actually a pretty small bottle, which could indicate that it's a very high-end wine, but I don't know. A traditional Kabinett style wine tends to be quite pale in color, as the grapes are usually harvested before botrytis arrives, And the wine is usually not aged in barriques or smaller oak vessels, and therefore don't get any oxidation in the winery. With age, that can obviously change, but this appears to be fairly young still. This wine is quite a bit more complex in flavor than the previous. It also smells of apple, but also of peaches, band-aid, a little bit kind of wild and weird, but really, really interesting. On the palate, it is quite rich. There's caramelized sugar, a little bit of vanilla coming through, not oak flavors, just flavor from the fruit. The acidity is quite high. There's more sugar, I think, than in the previous wine. So it overall has more power on the palate and a very long finish. The wine has also some edginess on the palate. There's a little bit of bruised apple coming through, and sometimes those tiny flaws, they can make a wine even more beautiful, give it more character. Well, you can see the glass is empty. That's usually a good indicator, and I'm going to rate this 95 points. Beautiful Kabinett. So let's move on to wine number 3. Oh, and that's pretty golden. You could call this color morning urine or golden, but this is certainly an indicator, if this is a Kabinett, which I assume it is, that this wine has been aged for a long time before I pop the cork. This is often still underappreciated, but Kabinetts can age beautifully and gracefully for decades. I've tasted Kabinetts that were 50, 60 years old and still fresh as a daisy. But the flavor profile changes with age. This is much more apricot, a little bit of rye bread, kind of cold smoke flavor coming through. Again, not barrique aging, but just flavors that develop in old Rieslings. There's also a mintiness that is absolutely beautiful. And now let's taste it. On the palate, it actually appears to be much drier than the previous wines, but that's often the case with aged Riesling. They tend to feel rounder and less acidic and less sweet. So the sweetness just kind of disappears, even though it's still there, but you don't feel it. It's beautiful mintiness and this, just creamy texture, again, reminding me a little bit of vanilla, just beautiful. It's difficult to say how old exactly this wine is, but I would guess that it's probably 50 years old, so quite old. And it doesn't feel like it's at its end. So I think you can still age this for 10, 20 more years, and it would still be there. Amazing. It would be really interesting to taste the previous wine at the same age right next to this wine, because I think the previous wine actually has longer legs, but this is right now just beautiful. So I'm going to rate this 94 points. Stunning. And now let's move on to wine number 4. I think I'm actually going to rinse out the glass quickly. And now. So this is clearly, again, much younger and much more pale in color. There's even a little bit of CO2 floating around in there. So I'm assuming this, certainly isn't 50 years old. It might not be very old, but it's very complex. There's bruised apple character coming through, some white flowers. There's also a little bit of honey. For me, this smells very much of a Mosel Riesling Kabinett, but let's taste it. This tasting is so much fun. I usually enjoy myself when tasting these wines here down in my cellar, but this is kind of special, very close to my heart. This is definitely very juicy and rich. This might be the sweetest wine out of all of the wines I've tasted so far, but it's difficult to guess sweetness level because it is always a function of the residual sugar, the pH, and the acidity level of the wine. They combine, and sometimes a wine with high acidity and high sugar might come across less sweet than a wine with the same sweetness level and lower acidity. So it's difficult to say. Definitely juicy, wild, and beautiful. And for me, this tastes a lot like Mosel. But we'll find out in the end. So unfortunately, this is already the last wine. I could have kept going with this tasting, But anyways, those wines are really easy to taste because they are low in alcohol, they are quite juicy and lively, they refresh you rather than tear you down. Sometimes if you taste lots of dry Rieslings or super concentrated red wines, you are fatigued after a while. But these wines, I think you can taste all day. So I would say color-wise, this is in between the really old Riesling and most of the other ones that were fairly young. This is starting to turn yellow or golden, and yeah, that's a sign of aging. So I'm guessing this might be a little older, but not super old. On the nose, it also shows a little bit of age. So it's not this super fresh and vibrant apple fruit character coming through. It's more refined. There's a little bit of lemon tart flavors, pineapple, slightly exotic. So it's not so upfront. It's kind of dialed down a little bit, but even more harmonious and beautiful. On the palate, it's also juicy with a perfect balance of sweetness and acidity. The acidity is intense, but it feels less intense because of the sweetness, and the sweetness is not as sweet because of the acidity. So this is really, really well made. It's fascinating. Even with that sweetness level, there's still some grip, like a tannic grip, which makes the mouth feel even more exciting. This is delicious. Just like all of them, really. I'm going to rate this 95 points. Delicious. Before I reveal the wines, let me first talk about the sponsor of this video, Squarespace. I'm currently working on a website, konstantinbaum.com, where I can tie together all of my activities. I'm not good at programming, so I chose Squarespace as it is an intuitive platform for building websites, long before they reached out asking whether they could sponsor the channel, I might add. Squarespace offers a wide variety of website templates that you can customize by dragging and dropping the different elements into the right spot. Changing colors and text and adding pictures and video is super easy. I'm planning to launch a newsletter for you, packed with wine insights and information, and Squarespace has that built right into their system, so you will be able to register effortlessly from that new site, and I'll be able to send the newsletter on a regular basis using Squarespace. Squarespace also allows me to set up galleries in which I can share additional content and upcoming events, so now I finally have a place where you can find all that information. So check out squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/KonstantinBaum using promo code KonstantinBaum in capital letters to get 10% off of your first purchase of a new website or domain. Link and code are below this video in the description. Thank you, Squarespace, for sponsoring this video, and now let's check out those wines. All right, this was a beautiful tasting, really great wines. Very well selected by you, Leon, and I just like them all. I might have not rated this wine officially, but I'm also giving it wine number 4, 95 points. Stunning. I'm guessing that this selection represents the top end of what Kabinett has to offer, but this should be an indication for you to drink more Kabinetts. So let's start off with wine number 1. I thought this was, well, in this lineup, it wasn't the best wine, it was the worst, but it was still a delicious Kabinett wine. I rated it 89 points. And yeah, I think it was maybe like an entry-level Kabinett, not the absolute best of the best. But let's have a look. Oh, all right. So this is Donnhoff from the Nahe region. One of the top producers in Germany. I thought this was a delicious, young and vibrant Kabinett style, really well made. Not quite the quality level that the other wines showed. So let's move on to wine number 2. I thought this was just absolutely outstanding. I rated it 95 points. Could have maybe even rated it higher. I thought it was just yeah, really interesting, really exciting, multi-layered, quite fascinating. So let's check it out. Okay, this is the 2020 Scharzhofberger Kabinett from Egon Muller, one of the most iconic wineries in Germany, probably one of the most iconic white wine producers in the world. They've certainly made one of the most expensive wines in the world. And well, they really know their craft. I recently attended a tasting where Egon Muller spoke about his wines, and his wines were just outstanding. They are just really, really great. They are maybe not always worth the money. I mean, I wouldn't pay €1,000 or more for a bottle of some of his wines, but they are certainly some of the best white wines you can taste. And this was just exciting. I mean, quality-wise, it was on the same level, on a similar level compared to the others, but it just, it's just a little bit, there's a little bit more to it, a little bit more character. So wine number 3 was, well, for me, clearly an aged Kabinett style. I thought it was roughly 50 years old, rated it 94 points. So let's see what it is. 1976 Schloss Johannisberger Rotlack Kabinett. Awesome. So this is an iconic estate in the Rheingau region. It's the oldest Riesling winery in the world, I think. And well, they've just made Riesling for a long, long time and make really great examples of it. Kabinett, this off-dry style, isn't as popular in the Rheingau as it is maybe in the Mosel or also in some parts of the Nahe region. But if they do it right, they can be just beautiful. And like I said, it's 50. It's older than me, and it tastes quite a bit younger than me. So wine number 4 also tasted a lot like Mosel to me, just like wine number 5. But this was quite a bit younger, more vibrant, very fresh. And let's see whether I was right. So 2021 Piesporter Goldtropfchen Riesling Kabinett from Schloss Lisa. It's 7.5% of alcohol. It was quite juicy and rich and low in alcohol, but just really good. So far, the Schloss Lisa was actually the lowest in alcohol. The Scharzhofberger was at 9% of alcohol. The Donnhoff was at 8.5. And the Schloss Johannisberger, it doesn't say how much alcohol it had. So I can't really say, but I would say that this was also drier than that. On to wine number 5, and I already know what it is, at least what the producer is. This should be the JJ Prum. It again tasted quite a lot like a Mosel Riesling. I really like the wines from Prum, and this was a very classic expression of this style from this winery. But maybe there was no Prum wine. Let's see. There was a Prum wine. There was. So this is the JJ Prum Wehlener Sonnenuhr Kabinett from the 2008 vintage. So a little bit of age, not as aged as the Schloss Johannisberger. But yeah, this showed that Kabinett wines are worth the wait. I think those 3 wines would have been much better in 10, 15, 20 years. But well, I popped those corks, so can't put them back in. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, then please like it down here, subscribe to my channel. My question is, do you like Kabinett wines? Have you ever tasted them or not? Let me know down below in the comments. I hope I see you guys again very soon. Until then, stay thirsty. Oh, and I'm going to drink those babies for sure very soon.